are ready for our Monday morning meeting. Hey, it's CEO of JPM Sales Partners, teaching everything I learned, recruiting, training, and leading a sales team, 30-person commission-only B2B sales team, startup from zero to over $100 million in just 3 years. And let me tell you, that takes some systems and coaching and making sure that what you're doing works over and over and over again. It doesn't matter who the salesperson is or what background they have. You can put someone in place, give them the system, give them the training, give them the coaching, and they're going to be able to duplicate the results of the rest of the team. So that's what I help companies do now. I help them create sales playbooks and processes that are duplicatable, repeatable, predictable, so you can grow and scale quickly and really just squash your competition because they won't be able to keep up with your sales. So what I wanted to talk about today was a little thing called resistance. Have you guys ever heard that term? So call resistance is basically that feeling when you get when you know you've got like 100 people to call, or even 50 or even 25, or even one really important call, and the phone all of a sudden feels like it's £1,000,000, and you think of all the other things that, geez, you just got to do first before you can make that phone call today. And then, oh, whoops, it's the end of the day. I was just so busy, I got around to making that call. Now, of course, I'm not talking about an appointment, because an appointment, you're going to keep it because it's on your calendar. But I'm talking about maybe when the person wasn't expecting it. Maybe you're doing some cold calling. Maybe you're following up. Maybe you're checking in, any kind of, calls on the prospecting side of the business or on the follow-up side of the business. So I wanted to give you some tips today on how to overcome call resistance. I've been there. I know exactly what it feels like. And you guys in there that are in my private group for our students, please feel free to ask questions while we're doing this, and I'll make sure to answer them. So call resistance, what is it, right? It's their innate fear of picking up the phone. Of course, it all comes down to fear of rejection, right? So you need to recognize that up front. Your resistance to calling is all goes back to your fear of getting rejected, of people saying no, of people saying that you're annoying them, right? So today we're going to talk how to get over that, because what'll happen is, again, you'll find a million other things to do besides call that person. Or you might say, hey, maybe an email is just better. And we know where that ends up, right? You're amongst a zillion other emails in their inbox. So if you need to make calls, if you've got a list of people to call, here's a step-by-step plan to get you into action. Tip number 1 is schedule it in. On your calendar, it'll get done. We don't want to wait and see if we have time at the end of the day to make the calls or in the week. Put it on your calendar as an appointment. Block out the time to do your calls, and don't let anybody else step into that time. Consider it your most important call of the week, because if you don't have a pipeline filled, guess what? You're out of business. So in just a matter of time, it's just a matter of time before you're out of business if you don't keep that pipeline full. Number 2 is to get yourself in the right mindset. So we talked about how calling resistance is really about fear of rejection. So there's a couple things you can do. One is in the morning, before you've got to make calls, do some visualization exercises, and imagine that the people that you're calling are so excited that you finally reached out to them, and imagine a positive outcome. So often we think about calls and we just think of all the worst case scenarios and all the objections that we can get, right? So if that's how you visualize your calls happening, that's exactly what's going to happen. So you've got to flip the switch and imagine positive outcomes from your calls. And then remember that you're there to help people. Remember all the amazing things about the success stories that people have had using your product and service. And remember that you are in a place of service, that you're calling to help them. Too many times we're thinking about ourselves making the sale, and it's all about us and what we can get. And then that's why you have the resistance, and then you're also just not going to get results. So put the focus on the customer and helping the customer. 3 is to prep ahead of time and make sure you have as much, you can make as many calls as possible without having to put the phone down or without having to lose momentum. Because An object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an outside force, and an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. So use momentum in your favor and do all of that call prep ahead of time in off hours or times when it's not a good time to be calling your prospects, and do the research on your clients. Make sure you've got all your numbers and lists in a row. You might even want to print it out. I like to, have a list in the CRM that's made of tasks, and then I could quickly, update notes and open records and just close out and go right into the next one while the phone's even ringing. So if you've got a old-fashioned phone with a receiver, the trick is to make the next call before the dial tone kicks in. Sorry, you're finished your one call, and then it gives you a while before it goes, It's probably like 30 seconds or something. So that's enough time to get yourself together and get the next call out. 4 is to batch your work so that you can use that momentum again, so that instead of making, calls sporadically throughout the day, you're batching it within a certain time period. Again, that helps, use momentum in your favor. 5 is move your body around, do some jumping jacks, get up, do your calls standing up. No one's going to see you, so you can use that to your advantage. That'll help the energy going and the positivity going, and it'll come across in your voice when you're talking to the client. 7 is you can start out by calling people that aren't going to answer first. So we all have that list like, I've called this person a million times. They never answer. So I just leave voicemails, and that's fine, because that at least gets your body in the motion of doing the calls and talking and leaving the voicemails. So that momentum will carry you through, and you only need 2 or 3 of those to get you in the groove. Once you're doing something for 5 minutes, it's much easier to keep going. You could use the same with any exercise. Like, I could do anything for 5 minutes. So, get on the treadmill for 5 minutes, then you'll find out, the next 5 minutes is a lot easier than the first 5 minutes. Number 8 is to be really comfortable with your script, so that you avoid ums and ahs and likes, and you don't have to think about what you're going to say. Be really comfortable with your script. Practice it over and over. Practice it in the mirror. Practice it with friends. Practice it with your colleagues. Have people give you objections and work on overcoming them, because you'll sound scripted if you're not comfortable with your script. See how that works? If you're not comfortable with your script, that's when people sound scripted. I try to beat this into people's heads all the time, because it's not the scripts that are the problem. It's that you're not comfortable with the script. When you're doing the same thing over and over hundreds of times, you end up saying the same thing over and over again. So that's what we work to duplicate, so that new salespeople coming in will just have the end result and not have to work through that trial and error with us. 9 is give yourself a time limit, and a goal. So I'm going to do this amount of calls in this time limit, and don't get up, don't go to the bathroom, don't get a drink, don't do anything until you finish that. And I suggest doing max chunks, and then give yourself a little break, and then do the whole thing over again. And if you've got a ton of calls to make, you should shoot, if you're doing like cold calling, most of the people aren't going to answer. So you can shoot for about at least 30 calls an hour. That gives you 2 minutes to dial and leave a message. And of course, if you have conversations, less than that, but most of them will not result in conversations. So just know that going in. And always leave a voicemail, please, because nobody can stand marketers that call and don't leave voicemails. It's such an old school technique to not leave voicemails. Don't do it. They'll see your number calling again, and they'll realize that you're just trying to pound on their door. 10 is turn off your mind and take action. So sometimes you have to turn off that little baby voice in your head that says, I don't want to do it. Or like, this probably isn't a good technique anyway. This is probably not going to get me any results anyway. Just turn off your mind. You don't have to have an opinion about it. Just do it. If something's going to give you a result, someone's telling you this is what's going to help you and help you make more money and make more sales, then you don't have to have an opinion about it. Just do it. Just go through the motions. So finally, as a bonus, is to reward yourself when it's done. Make sure that you set a reward for yourself when complete, so that you getting that reinforcement that you're doing something good. All right. Well, have a great week, everyone. And I'll see you next Monday.